We're here, Brad. Woo! We're in Austin.
Austin.
All right, guys, we're back. Guess what? We're back. We're back at the Texas Card House. Some serious action went down last time I was here at the Texas Card House here in Austin, Texas. 5-5 no limit tonight meetup game. Last time we were here, managed to lose $3,000 in a 5-5 game. Last time we were here, it's a little bit deceptive. I'm winded right now from doing that little scene thing. 5-5, it's a little bit deceptive. These games play big. Lots of action in Texas. You know, it's pretty cool. Think about it. We're playing Texas Hold'em in Texas. Yeah, so the games are uncapped. No max buy-in in the 5-5. Usually lots of straddling, and considering it's a meetup game, there's gonna be some bomb pots and all that fun stuff. So you can sort of see how one can end up losing $3,000, or at least you probably will see, hopefully not me lose $3,000 again, but hopefully see lots of action in this game. Today is Tuesday. That's the plan today. We're gonna play for, I don't know, 5-6 hours, something like that. Hang out, drink a couple beers, meet some people, meet some vlog watchers. Tomorrow there's a tournament. We'll be discussing that more later, either in this video or the next video. I'm pretty excited to get back into the mix here, here in Austin at the Texas Card House. Fun location, deep games, action city. All we're missing is some run good. Let's see if we can find some. We got 7 tables, that's right, 7 tables of uncapped, no limit hold'em running tonight at the Texas Card House. And as usual at the meetup games, Brad and I will be rotating our way through as many as we can in order to play with as many people as we can. Stop number 1 here, right off the bat, we look down at pocket jacks from under the gun. There's a straddle line, so I make it $35 to go. A player in middle position gives me a warm welcome to Austin with a 3-bet to $135. Anytime the under the gun opens, that's going to be a smaller range, and when a player 3-bets that range, it should be pretty snug. I don't want to over-rep my hand, so I flat call here, and we're off to a flop. The flop comes queen, 10, 3, rainbow, and after I check, the player in middle position checks back. I don't think he's necessarily capped his range here, as I think since we're $2,000 deep to start the hand, he can pot control with some overpairs and slow play top set. He'll also have some hands like ace-king that we are ahead of. The turn is a 5, which adds a flush draw on the board. I check again, and this time he bets $250. I think I could actually fold facing that sizing and peel versus some smaller sizes, since I'll pretty much always have to fold facing another bet on the river. I'd expect him to size down with a hand like pocket 10s, since my calling range is smaller in that regard. But it feels a little too weak to fold versus one post-flop bet with pocket jacks and only one overcard. The river doesn't change anything. I check it, and he puts out another reasonably sized bet of about $500. As mentioned, I'm just going to have to fold here, as I should have some better hands in my range to call down with. And like I said, I should maybe consider folding the turn versus a near pot size bet. In this hand, there's no straddle on. The cutoff opened limps, and I look down at a beautiful 7-6 of clubs on the button, and I make it $30 to go. The big blind and the limper make the call. So 3 ways to a flop of 6-3-3 rainbow. Action checks over to me, and I bet $45.
45.
Both players go ahead and fold, and we are officially on the board with a victory here in Austin.
Thank you.
In this hand, the $10 straddle is back on, and we look down at 2 black aces, the best hand ever created. We make it 35 to go from early position, and everyone folds.
Nobody. Brutal.
In this hand, we raise ace-queen suited to $20 from under the gun plus 1. There's 2 calls before the button puts in a 3-bet to $110. There's 0 chance that I'm folding 40% of a royal, so I go ahead and call, and the player on my left calls as well. 3 ways to a flop in which we make top 2 pair on a monotone board. The action checks all the way through. Turn is a brick, and I'm going to be looking to charge any hands that potentially have a single heart in them. I bet $250, and both players make the fold. It's not a bad result because even a hand like pocket deuces with a heart still had plenty of equity on that board.
It's just hard because one person's...
In this hand, there's a middle position limp, and we look down at the third best hand ever created, pocket queens. I make it $30 to go in the low jack and get calls from the button, the big blind, and the limper. So we're 4 ways to a flop of 10, 9, 6 rainbow. It checks to me, and I think it's going to be a bet fold spot. It's a very connected board, and I'm not blocking any strong hands, but I don't want to give any free cards either. So I bet $70. We get calls from the button and the big blind. 3 ways to a turn card, which doesn't look great. It's an offsuit 7. When the big blind checks and with 4 to a straight on board, I slow it down with a check, and the button checks back. River pairs the bottom card, which seems like a good card to me because we're beating all potential 2 pair hands. However, the big blind leads out for $205. It's a 60% pot size bet, so the price is reasonable. And there are some missed straight draws available. Queen Jack and King Queen both would be drawing to the nuts with overcards available. I'd also expect the button to have bet with a straight on the turn. The problem with my hand is that it heavily blocks those straight draws. So I think I should fold here, but in the moment I get a little stubborn and make the call. And the button calls behind me, which is not a good sign. The big blind shows us 8-5 of hearts for just a raw gutter on the flop, and the button mucks behind me after I muck my hand. Sometimes those gutters do pay off.
How I could get over the YouTube comments.
I have the straddle on in this next hand, and there are 3 limps before the button raises to $65. I think he can be doing this with a wide enough range that when I look down at ace-queen offsuit, rather than call and invite all of the limpers in behind me and be forced to play out of position, I decide to 3-bet to $210. If we do face a 4-bet, I won't be too sad to have to let ace-queen off go. If it was suited, I could definitely see a case for flatting because we then dominate worse flush draws and have more playability in general. But I like my decision to 3-bet in this instance. After I put in the 3-bet, the second limper cold calls and everyone else folds. A little unexpected to see one of the limpers make the call, but we're going heads up to a flop, which comes 10-7-5 rainbow. I downbet it here to 180 in order to fold out any unpaired hands that would have equity, but I also wouldn't mind a check being out of position and with some showdown value. We get called by the limper. The turn is a great card. It's the queen of diamonds. So now we can switch from semi-bluffing to value, and I bet $375. To my surprise, my opponent jams all in, and I'm not exactly sure what to make of it. I get a count, and it's about $1,050 total. In low and mid-stakes poker, I think it makes a lot of sense to do a lot of bet folding, and I'm not sure what bluffs he can have here, aside from some combo draws that added equity on the turn. Hands like 9-8 of diamonds and 8-6 of diamonds. It's such a good card for us, and really not too much more that I feel like I need to call, but I'm definitely not loving the situation. We agree to run it twice. The first river is an offsuit deuce, and the second river is the 4 of diamonds. Turns out we needed to improve on one of those rivers against the queen 10 of hearts, and there weren't many cards that were going to get us there. You know, it's pretty funny. There's a lot of meta type stuff that can go on in a meetup game, and one of those things is that sometimes opponents will cold call extra wide pre-flop, which makes for some pretty tricky spots post-flop. If I think he does this with the aforementioned combo draws, then I like my play, but I don't really know whether that's accurate or if he would just flat again on the turn. What I do know is that we're driven right back into Stuckville, Texas, and it's becoming a pretty familiar sight down here. We fast forward now about 90 minutes, and I'm playing on what I think is the 5th table of the evening, having bounced around to a few different tables as mentioned. Managed to win a hand recently with Ace King in a 3-bet pot where I 3-bet it to $90 and got all 3 streets of value after making top 2 pair. This is shortly after that. We look down at another very friendly site. We look down at pocket aces from early position and make it $20 to go. The small blind calls, and the big blind puts in a 3-bet. He makes it $85 to go. We're pretty deep here. I've added on, and as mentioned, I won that hand recently. So the big blind, he's got about $2,000 or maybe 100 or 200 more than that, and I cover him. So definitely want to get some more money in here pre-flop. No reason to slow play it, and I go ahead and 4-bet it to $245. Back over to the small blind now, who makes the fold, and the big blind thinks about it and goes into the tank. Thinking here for a little bit before deciding to jam it all in there. About as healthy and beautiful of a sight as you could ask for when you are stuck. Someone jamming into you 400 big blinds with pocket aces. He asked me if I want to run it once or twice. As per usual, I leave it up to my opponent and I say we can run it twice.
Two's good.
The dealer assembles the boards, board number 1 and board number 2. My opponent says he doesn't think he can win, and he goes ahead and mucks his hand. So very beautiful sight right there, winning about somewhere between a $4,000 and $4,500 pot. This is the action available at the Texas Card House in Austin. Things are looking up. Not only do we get all the way unstuck thanks to these pocket aces, but we get well into the black now, up over $1,000 on the session so far. Once again, we fast forward about an hour or so to the last crucial hand of the night. I had lost a couple of medium-sized pots, but we're still in positive territory when we look down at pocket 8s. I make a standard raise to 20, and only the small blind makes the call. Heads up to a flop of king 10 deuce with 2 clubs. He checks, and I check it back. Turn looks favorable to me. It's an offsuit 8. This time the small blind leads for $50, and I definitely want to raise here with several draws available and almost always the best hand. We don't block any of his calling range, so I raise it to $150. My opponent makes the call. Off to the river, which is an offsuit deuce, upgrading us to a full house. My opponent thinks for a while before leading out for $250, which is obviously a very welcome sight. He's got about $800 total, and I think the only raise size that really makes sense is to jam so that I can rep missed draws myself. I jam it all in there, and my opponent thinks for a little bit. Eventually, he makes the call, and we turn it over before my opponent turns over pocket 10s. Just when we thought the tables had turned for us here in Texas, no such luck. We end up in a set under set situation in which there's no way we don't lose the maximum. No. It's a bit frustrating, but with the cooler hands, there's nothing that can be done. I think it's important to remind ourselves that for as often as we get coolered, we're going to do that to our opponents at exactly the same frequency. We end up booking a loss of about $1,000, which, given how much action there is here in Austin, it's not a very big loss, and it's our first cash game loss of 2019, so we can't feel too bad. What's even better is that the next day there were some great tournament results. No, I didn't win any money playing, but we managed to pull together an amazing turnout for the first ever tournament meetup game. What was billed as a $5,000 guarantee ended up getting smashed to the tune of a $22,000 prize pool, or about 4.5 times the guarantee. Congratulations to Brian Jensen for taking down the event and collecting the first ever silver mug. As always, many thanks to everyone who came to this mug event, our first ever 2-day meetup game, and you're welcome for all the money.